From the outside, these places look impossible to reach, almost deliberately hidden from the world. They rise from forests, oceans, cliffs, and mountaintops, where even standing safely is a challenge, let alone building entire communities. Wind, isolation, and sheer drops should make long-term survival unlikely. And yet, long before modern equipment, people somehow lived, worked, and worshipped in these extreme locations. So why would anyone choose to build where even arriving could mean death? One impossible claim keeps appearing across continents. Ancient societies deliberately place important religious and political centers in locations that seem to defy as basic construction and daily survival. For years, historians assumed these were symbolic exceptions or later legends. But when researchers finally reached many of these sites, they found not just shrines, but long-term settlements. And that changes everything. But then, in the forested Emirati region of Georgia, a narrow limestone column rises more than 130 feet straight out of the ground. On its flat top sits the remains of a church complex no larger than a small apartment. For centuries, locals said no one could climb it. But in the 1940s, mountaineer Alexander Japaridze and writer Levan Gotua finally reached the summit. What they found confirmed that people had once lived there in near total isolation. And that was only the beginning. Long before modern climbers arrived, monks were already living above the forests, beyond normal human contact. Archaeological studies later showed the structures dated to the 9th or 10th century, with inscriptions added centuries later. There were living quarters, a wine cellar, and a crypt. Large clay wine vessels were discovered, proving the site was not meant for brief visits. But what they didn't expect was that no records explain how heavy stone and supplies were ever transported to such a narrow summit. Now, consider the scale of what that means. 130 feet of sheer vertical rock is taller than a 10-story building. There is no natural slope, no wide ledge, no easy approach. Every stone, every vessel, every wooden beam had to be hauled straight up a wall of rock using ropes and handholds. And that's where the real problem begins, because this was not an isolated case. Across the Atlantic, jagged peaks rise directly from the ocean, 9 miles off the coast of Ireland. Skellig Michael stands nearly 750 feet above sea level, battered constantly by wind and waves. Yet carved into its steep slopes are narrow stairways leading to a monastery built in the 7th century. Beehive-shaped huts, oratories, terraces, and a graveyard still cling to the rock. Most people think ancient builders avoided extreme danger whenever possible, but in reality, some chose the most hostile environments available. The science of construction here is surprisingly simple and disturbingly demanding. There were no animals to carry stone, no machines, no harbor for safe unloading. Everything had to be carried by hand upstairs, cut directly into the rock face. Archaeologists believe some graves belong to monks who died during construction itself. For years, people assumed monks retreated here only briefly, but the evidence shows the community survived over more than 600 years. But that's when things became more dangerous. The monastery was eventually abandoned, likely because storms and rising seas made survival impossible. And that raises a bigger question. If even the ocean could not stop them from building, what else were people willing to risk? In northern Ethiopia, the answer is height. In the Tigray region, churches are carved directly into sheer sandstone cliffs. One of the most extreme is Abuna Yemata Guh, built in the 6th century at over 8,000 feet above sea level. There is no road, no staircase, and no safety barrier. Reaching it requires climbing exposed rock using ancient handholds, crossing a stone bridge with an 800-foot drop, and edging along a ledge only inches wide. One slip means death. Yet inside, the walls are covered in vivid frescoes, preserved for more than 1,000 years. The dry, isolated air protected them when cities below were rebuilt and destroyed. Some chambers contain human bones. Monks and pilgrims carried up for burial. For centuries, monks traded prayers for water with villagers below so they could remain on the cliff F's and avoid descending. Most people think isolation was accidental, but in reality, it was the entire purpose. And not every unreachable site was built only for worship. In Sri Lanka, a massive granite column rises nearly 600 feet above surrounding plains. On top of this rock once stood an entire city. According to ancient records, King Kashyapa chose Sigiriya as his capital in the late 5th century. He built a palace on the summit, fortified these slopes, and constructed water gardens and reservoirs that still function during monsoon seasons today. For years, historians assumed such hydraulic engineering was impossible for that era, but the water still flows. Halfway up the rock, a giant gateway shaped like a lion once guarded the path upward. Visitors climbed through the lion's mouth to reach the upper levels. After the king's death, the city was abandoned and later converted into a monastery. Mirror-polished walls and ancient graffiti remain visible today. The shock is not that people climbed the rock, but that they turned it into a fully operating urban center. So why choose such impossible ground? In Bhutan, the answer becomes part of the journey itself. Paro Taktsang, known as the Tiger's Nest Monastery, clings to a cliff of nearly 10,000 feet above sea level. Reaching it requires a long mountain hike and a steep climb that gains over 3,000 feet in elevation. The monastery was built around a cave where the Buddhist master Padmasambhava meditated in the 8th century. Legend says he arrived on the back of a flying tiger. Archaeology confirms the cave was used for meditation long before the monastery was built in the 17th century. Some traditions say he meditated there for 3 years, 3 months, 3 days, and 3 hours. Another legend claims a disciple's body vanished and reappeared sealed inside the cave. Whether symbolic or literal, the location itself became proof of devotion. Most people think spiritual sites are meant to comfort, but in reality, some were designed to test physical limits. Now step back and look at what all of this requires. Stone, wood, food, water, and labor had to be transported to cliff FFVFs, pillars, islands, and mountaintops. These were not emergency shelters. They were long-term communities that operated for centuries. Isolation may have offered safety from invasion. Difficulty may have served as a test of faith. Strategic advantage may have protected rulers. But no single explanation fits every site. What is undeniable is that ancient societies possessed far more organizational skill and logistical planning than they are often given credit for. They coordinated labor, transport, and engineering in environments where modern rescue teams still struggle to operate. Mystery followed by fact, then more mystery again. For years, scientists assumed these locations were chosen despite the danger. But the evidence now suggests danger itself was part of the design. Reaching these places was not meant to be easy. It was meant to separate the committed from everyone else. So the final belief break is this. We often imagine ancient people limited by technology, forced to settle only where survival was easy. But again and again, they chose the opposite. They built where survival was hardest, where access itself became proof of purpose. What methods did they use to move massive materials where even ropes fail today? And how many similar sites remain undiscovered hidden in terrain we still cannot safely reach. Until those answers are found, these unreachable structures remain quiet reminders that human ambition has always climbed far higher than we expect.